Welcome back to the Southern Fried Humanitarian, the show where your two hosts are humanitarian workers from the South living in the North. We explore the cultural differences in our regionality, environment, and across the world. Let's get cracking, dude. How you doing, man?
Not too bad, man. My name is Prejean.
So, Prey, good to see you there.
Good seeing you too, Sam.
We're crackling here today, man. Today we're going to talk about, World Refugee Day, and I was thinking, personally, prior to working at the place we work at now, I literally never heard of it.
You know, me neither. Before I gone to humanitarian work, I've never heard of that, or technically even attended an event. Because by the time I was gonna attend World Refugee Day, COVID happened, and so that kind of knocked that out. But I think we just looked it up earlier today and found out that World Refugee Day did not start until 2001.
Yeah, and before 9/11, it was before. It's 2000. Whenever you say 2001, everyone's like, oh, 9/11.
Yeah.
And then.
So that's my first thought when I heard that too. I was like.
Wait, what? That's a weird time to start.
And honestly, I was about to ask, was it before or after?
Oh, it was June. June 20th.
Yeah.
So it was before.
So it was before, the war on terror and how that fucked up our perception. That may be the reason why we've never even heard of it before this context,
Yeah, because the second one in the U.S., no one gave a shit. It was just
I know, it was like, you're brown, you're an enemy. It did not matter. Because, in fact, crazy thing that happened right after 9/11 was that in my hometown, a local Sikh man was shot and killed at his own convenience store. And now, mainly because and again, this was a white individual that perpetrated this crime. I mean, he was duly arrested because it was just, a heinous attack. He just picked him because he was brown and he thought he was a terrorist. And my thing is, he was a Sikh. You just assumed a man who had a turban was just a straight Muslim and a terrorist, therefore. It shows me at that time the baffling of ignorance in America.
Yeah, but it's kind of how it is. But yeah, so it's crazy. That's ridiculous because Sikhs are only it's a religion localized in India.
Basically.
So India, that's not even that's literally just the color brown.
Hey man, I'm not the one who decided to do that shit. The man saw a brown dude and was like, my racism knows no color. Except white.
That guy's an equal opportunity racist.
Jail. I mean,
he probably still is,
or he probably kicked a bucket in jail.
Yeah.
Again, he was a fairly old man, very racist.
Oh, he's just this is an old man. This is a 75-year-old motherfucker with his walker.
I mean, I feel like
walking up.
Then again,
he's got a fucking shotgun duct taped to the fucking walker. What the hell?
I mean, it is the South, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Hell yeah, brother.
An old woman would be like, you trying to be like, oh man, do you need help across the street? And she'd be like, get back over there, sonny. I got my gat on you. It's okay, ma'am.
Yeah. I have a 12-gauge shotgun. And they got the fucking tennis balls, but they're fucking grenades.
I was feeling pea shooters.
Yo, punk it around.
It's like, wanna try this, honey?
Wanna try?
Chocolate.
But yeah, no, so yeah, the Southern Fried Humanitarian. So we are from the South and we're humanitarian workers. So we're gonna you're from NC, I'm from Louisiana, and people have this idea of the South as a monolith. It's really not.
It truly isn't, and it just kind of goes to show to you as well, you gotta have this overarching to the thesis of humanitarian work and being of exploring different culturalities, is that not everyone from a region is quite the same. Just now we were observing outside, and for those folks that are listening in, I know we're releasing this on June 20th on World Refugee Day, but right now it's Sunday, Juneteenth, and also Father's Day. Shout out to all the fathers out there.
Mm-hmm.
But we were just looking at the window and saw what I like to further call fireflies, because they glow in the dark and they fly. And Sam has a different name for them, which is
Lightning bugs. Like, look, first of all, there's that stupid song by Owl City. I like to make myself believe. That song sucks.
Who cares about, like, lightning bugs just sound, like, terrible. Like, they don't say ka-chow.
Like, what was this, Cars? Like, come on, dude.
Oh, but you call them lightning bugs. They gotta be having something.
I'd never seen them until, like, I moved here.
They don't have them in Louisiana?
No, they don't.
What?
I know.
That was, like, a constant summer thing for me.
No, I ain't never seen them.
I thought we just got fireflies.
And it's just too damn,
bugs.
hot for these things.
I thought, like, it being hot was a prerequisite to have these things.
Nah, it's so funny, dude. Like, how people in the north, like, will be complaining about the heat of the summer. Like, bro, y'all don't know anything.
Like, I can get in the city because the city can be, like...
Not, kinda.
Because you got a bunch of, like, concrete and windows just amplifying heat.
Yeah, and there's a lot more light pollution at night, so...
Yeah, but, like, if you're up north and not, like, a very dense populated city, like, for me, where I was at, it was, like... It wasn't, like, it was a city in terms of, like, metropolitan area, but it wasn't, like, you know, you're not thinking New York or even D.C. type of caliber. But even then, like, humidity was just terrible.
Yeah, the humidity in Louisiana, the humidity is the worst. Like, it's us and, like, oh, there's an ambulance, cop cars. I wonder what happened. Anyway, yeah, so in Louisiana, it's like the humidity is worse than anything else. And the heat's bad, too. Like, I remember that was, like a day like today, it's, like, perfect. It was, like, 70 degrees today. Like, I remember in Louisiana, it's, like, it'd be, like, what? It'd be 98 degrees outside with 98% humidity, and my dad'd be like, go cut the grass. I'm like, it's 2 o'clock. So, like, well, do it.
And you're dying outside in the heat. And let's not forget, like, especially when it comes to, like, difference in, like, regionality, like, that heat is different. Like,
oh, the heat hits different for real. Like,
and honestly, that kind of goes to show, like, because this was a reading from way back when, and it was just talking about, like, how, you know, you can basically group people more not on geographical but more on topological lines. Because, like, especially because it was in terms of, like, when you look at
like watersheds.
Not even watersheds. This was looking at, like, Africa, like, after decolonization, because you know how arbitrary the borders were drawn. They decided to get groups that were basically not only, like, geographically, like, isolated, but topologically. Like, the reason why a lot of these groups were, you know, kind of, like, fighting between each other was because, like, was more based on tropicality. You have people from sub-Saharan Africa, you know, where it's a lot hotter and, you know, less humid. Then you have sub-Saharan Africa where it was a little more tropical, a lot more water access. So, like, it's a difference in, like, how they treat water access. You know, people who are in a desert environment know how to adapt their water usages. So, and, like, the cultures revolve around that. While people in more, like, water, like, tropical areas have different views on water and how it should be used. So, like, that's what was kind of very interesting to me, is, like, just regionality and tropicology. Like, places in the South. If you, like, there's a reason why Florida is crazy as it is. This is how I'm making a full circle. Like, Florida is crazy because tropologically it's different from the rest of the South. Like,
Florida is different, man. But Florida's, like, also Louisiana's, like, weird. Okay, if the United States is a high school, Louisiana and Florida are, like, smoking cigs in the back and, like, at the back of the classroom and calling the teacher a bitch. Like, that's what they're doing.
Now, I feel like if this was high school, I feel like North Carolina's the one that's smoking cigs in the back, while, like, Alabama and, like, Florida are just outside smoking meth. No,
Alabama, like people you're giving Alabama too much crazy credit, man. Like, Florida's a different kind of crazy, but, like, you know, look, it's humid as hell, alligators, you know, on the Gulf.
Florida people
from Florida, you know.
They got the Florida man and women.
Yeah.
And the Florida non-binaries.
You never hear those stories, though.
The ones that actually, like, have sense.
Oh, I thought you meant, like, it's like, what do you mean those stories make sense? Like, oh no, the people are making sense.
Like the non-binary people make more sense than the Florida men and women.
Yeah.
Because just, like, I've never heard of a Florida non-binary person do this crime.
Well, thanks to Governor DeSantis, you never will. talk to you. So, what are some other cool like differences you notice about North Carolina and Louisiana?
Honestly, it's more so of how have moments of having country accents.
Yeah, mine like will very much like come out. Like I'll code switch around. Like if I'm around like other people from the South, it'll just come out. Like when I'm talking to my mom, I like say, "Did you hear that one?"
Yeah, and that's another thing about like code switching too. Uh, is how I feel like that was more important growing up,
Mhm.
especially like when you have different like people from different like regions, areas, and like backgrounds, especially when you're in the South, because you have like a lot of friends from who are black, some friends who are white, and like you gotta navigate life through different vocal lenses. So you gotta have to practice your proper Southern accents, like yes, ma'am, we know, sir. So and then you also have like your formal business or phone voice, like hi, how are you doing there? Yeah, this
Mhm.
is Chad. Absolutely, absolutely. I'll get you to that on Monday, Mr. Johnson.
Mhm.
Fantastic. You have a great weekend.
Yeah. Also, like, there's this perception, and I remember like because I like actively suppressed my accent growing up because like I grew up around cats who were just like who spoke like the very thick like what the hell are you talking about kind of Southern accent.
Oh
And
yeah,
like, because I thought they just like, and I remember like on TV, like people just sounded so stupid. Like,
yeah. So it has that era of dumb, and that's why like I always feel self conscious when people say,
mm-hmm.
you have a Southern accent, and I'd be like, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because it sounds like you're telling me I'm dumb.
Dude, yeah, no, because like
Like bless your heart, but like I'm not.
I had a roommate who was just like, I moved here. He was like, "You have a Southern accent." I'm like, "No, I don't have a Southern accent." It's like you do. It's like,
But for the most part, it sounds pretty normal. It's just that the little twangs come here and there because it's just for us
mm-hmm,
the only way we heard that is through our like through those accents. Like you
mm-hmm,
don't hear y'all in like a very proper like area. Like my parents learned the Queen's English. There's no such thing as y'all in her vocabulary or her
mm-hmm.
vernacular. Apparently,
Yeah.
it's very very posh, very
Yes, of
sophisticated.
course. Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, mom.
All right. What do you call this?
Vegetable oil.
Vegetable oil?
Oil.
All.
I know.
It's all.
That's what I said.
Vegetable oil.
No, no joke. Like I know it's
All? Yeah.
all, but like I make the conscious effort to say oil.
Yeah, it's
So the
all.
whole Baltimore accent thing.
Oh my god, all. I love the Baltimore accent.
And that's one thing too. Love your accents too, bruh. I saw this funny video the other day, and it took me aback, but it also made me proud just to see people like me out there representing. I heard the Valley Girl accent on a brown girl for the first time, and I'm just like, honestly, it's used to be annoying to me, but coming from you, I can tolerate it.
hmm Yeah, that's good stuff, man.
Yeah. So like,
Oh
love your
yeah.
accents. Don't let that like
hmm
define you as much. Like it took me a while just to get over the fact that like I may sound southern, but like
hmm
it only comes out in certain instances.
we should also like take a moment to like address like who we are in the capacity as humanitarian workers. Like, I'll start with myself. I'm a white man and I'm from the South. Like, so, but at the end of the day, I am like a white man, and you are.
Of southeastern descent.
hmm
Uh, grew up in the South. Second generation U.S. born child, born and raised. So, I like to be referred to as a redneck.
No, but like, you know what I mean. Like, I think it's important. Like, as humanitarian workers, we like.
We kind of know what we're like dealing with, and especially the clients that are coming in, because just like our perception is like it could be skewed from theirs. They have a whole different reality or expectation of how
hmm
the U.S. is. And that's kind of why we kind of brought this podcast up, is because we want to share those experiences that they experience, and also bring to light the issues they have of what we have crafted here in America as a
hmm
fantastic like story of come over here, your life will change for the better, and then like we're sugarcoating the actual truth that it's pretty difficult.
Yeah, because It really is. And so, a little like background, we work in employment services. So, we are like both.
Like in the humanitarian segment and like how I come to know it, there's different functions. So they escape from the conflict and regionality they're at, and they go into different places where they're basically booked in process to come over to their new resettled country. Now, there's the resettlement process where they are just kind of brought over here, placed into permanent housing. We kind of get them like set up with immunizations, what have you, and then they only have a certain amount of time with that, and then they move on to employment. So the whole point is just to get them to be able to take care of themselves, because you can't just not work and be able to live off if you have a family, you know.
So there's like, so for the uninitiated, there are like, there's we have different at our resettlement agency. We have people who work in immigration and like specialize in immigration. People who work in financial like sustainability, and they work in that kind of like financial coaching for our clients.
Yeah.
And then we have people in I guess like housing who help people get set up with housing. But then you bring it to us in the employment side. So we kind of we're in this like weird sense of like we truly are like the most American like
segment
of
like
our
resettlement, like of
yeah.
the whole humanitarian work is that you're gonna have a lot of these cats that come in, they really do want to be a part of that American dream. They have the motivation, the skills, and the ability to want to go out there, work hard, bring home that bacon for their family. If they're not bacon, maybe turkey bacon or faux bacon.
Yeah, you got
if they're
like
halal,
our Muslim clients.
you got to be halal for them, and kosher for our like Jewish folks out there too, and also in other denominations who do not consume meat or anything like that.
Or poor, yeah, I guess yeah. You got to bring home.
You gotta be all encompassing here. But you get my point. You gotta bring food to your family at the end of the day. That's what a lot of people want. They just want that ability to have that security again, to provide for their families, just to have that life. I think my old resettlement executive director said it best. He said that humanitarian work, is giving them the chance to have a human life. And not a human life, a life of decency, that they're just able to live, provide for their family, and just like not have to avoid anything.
Yeah, you get to enjoy your rights as a human being.
Yeah, like they just want to live with decency and be looked at as human again. Because before, when you're viewed as a refugee, you're just viewed as a refugee. You're not viewed as a person who has just lost everything. And so I think a lot of times our segment brings them back to that reality of like they are a person, they're able to bring and provide for their family. But it's also just a lot of times we do come across a lot of difficult clients who don't have a lot of education or a lot of formal work. Look at a lot of women in very patriarchal societies. They weren't ever allowed to have formal like experience or work experience. So you had to deal with those difficulties.
And those are like barriers to like employment that we in our jobs like we work to actively break down.
Yeah. And a lot of other humanitarian workers that also deal with employment understand like those situations are pretty difficult because especially if they have children. Kids cost a lot of money.
Yeah, especially in this country. And, you also talk to these people, and I was talking with our supervisor recently about, like, there are these, like, cultural ideas of, like, not only, like, women working, but, like, also, like, people just, like, working in general. Like, here we live to work. Like that's the ideal American dream. Is like, it's like you wake up and you go work, and then everything else is secondary.
Yeah, like and this is kind of crazy to me because I also think about this too. Like the like aspect of working is so ingrained to us. Like you know how everyone says for you to have a good like good life, here you got to go to school, go to college, graduate with a degree, and then you're able to get a good job. It's always leading to that good job, and you just stop after that. What happens after you get that good job? No one tells you that it's gonna be like you can be working for 40 years, 9 to 5, chipping away. You're gonna have a family. You're gonna like do this and that, and then like
You have
then you
kids so
retire
they can go to school and they can get a job.
and repeat the cycle.
Yeah,
And so it
so
like it's so ingrained that like you come to expect that like okay for me to do this I do have to work that 9 to 5. I had to get that education so I can get that 9 to 5. And you know we come to this impasse in American society now where we both everyone knows that like that's not the truth. Like a lot of times you finish off your degree, your undergraduate degree, and then you realize like the workforce is not there like they promised. Like
I also like, for me, like, I worked through my undergrad, you know,
yeah,
and it's like you have these stupid jobs that you have, and then, you're working with like so. I had this job when I was living in Texas. I was a caterer. I was a cater waiter. Have I told you this story?
yeah.
Yeah, the cater waiter story. So it's like, it's me, like, this gangly ass fucking white dude, like, walking around these, like, wedding events. And, like, 95% of my coworkers were from, like, Central America. Like FOB immigrants from, like, Central America. And so, it's just like, and they were like, they were older people, and, they had this job, and they're great. They're very nice about it. Like, they're very nice people. They worked really hard, and I miss that job sometimes. But like, their kids like would work with them. Like, it was a family thing. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, that's something you don't see a lot in American households.
So like back to the point I was making about like how, I was talking to our supervisor, and basically I said to him, like, there's this cultural idea that we have to work in America, but that doesn't exist in other countries like Afghanistan or, Malawi or well, I can't speak for Malawi, but I'll speak for Afghanistan and my limited knowledge of what that culture is like. It's like they don't have this like the purpose of life for them isn't to work. I don't know what it is, but it's not to work.
It's such an American idea. Like, of course, they do some work to be able to provide, but like their whole aspect is like sustainability. Like, I'm here to provide for my family, make sure they're all right, send my kids to school, yada yada yada. That's a good life. There's no I'm chasing this American dream to get filthy rich, then blow all my money, and then die poor, pitch poor in a pile of dirt in Las Vegas. I don't know, something like that. Whatever the American dream used to be or what it has perceived, it's become a whole story on of its own that like it doesn't translate well to other cultures. Like they do have the concept of work, it's just not the same as like what we view as work.
Well, I think like I was talking with a friend of mine who is a religious studies. She's studying religious studies like right now. I think somewhere. I mean, how like religion and culture, there's not really like a it didn't used to be so separate, like these ideas, like religion is an aspect of culture, like kind of this fusion of like, religion was simply a part of culture. But like, so, it's like, and like, and that blends into like race and ethnicity and everything, so it's like, you ever hear people say, oh, well, Judaism isn't, it's not a race, it's a religion, but like, for the longest time, people's, ethnicity and race was like tied into their religious beliefs. So I think for us in America, like our religion is work.
Yeah, and funny note about that. Technically, Judaism was considered a race up until the 1940s. So, like legit in the United States, there was actually a Supreme Court that determined that court case where like Judaism is considered a race. So, that is a fun fact. But I think that is true. Like there is a difference when it comes to like how the ability to get to work or get into work is. And another thing that also kind of like ties into that is like how they view like transportation. Like
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I always note and that always comes to me is like a lot of the time people like the need for people to work near where they live is a necessity, and that shows through our work because a lot of times you're dealing with like poor populations, and I've worked in like not only refugee resettlement but also high needs populations all across like DC and North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I understand like the need for a lot of people to be able to get to and from work. Sometimes you want to be in an area that's close enough to where you can walk to work, and that saves a lot on like childcare, um, bus fare. So there's a lot of benefits to a lot of people, but it's also just like the need for better public transportation infrastructure.
And there is like an epistemic gap of like, financial literacy too.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and that also has to do with like public education indoor, like for especially with our clientele, they probably never really have to think about it beforehand. Different world in the U.S. The concept of credit, concept of loans,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to make payments. Like it may sound so simple and like second nature to us, but for a
Mm-hmm.
lot of other people, like it is a foreign concept. Like, what do you mean they're gonna give me a bunch of money for what?
And
Like,
it can be predatory too. Like, that's a thing that there are these like credit card companies that'll charge, like that'll go out to colleges and just be like, hey, sign up for a free credit card, get like this blanket, and then it's like interest rates ridiculously high on those payments because they know they're not going to pay. But anyway, so basically employment and refugee resettlement, like as Southerners, you know, I think we have an especially, I guess, unique experience to these kind of things. Like, well, for us, it's like, summer's really freaking hot.
yeah.
I used to shovel sand on the golf course in the summer. That was no fun.
Oh yeah, I used to have to work out in the lawns of the cemetery as a grass
Mm-hmm.
cutter. So like, I know when like the sun is being down on you.
I don't know. What was your, so like the messaging for you? Like, I'm interested as like from like being from Southeast Asia and like having this or having or being a gentleman of Southeast Asian descent. How did your parents treat work, and how do they view work?
You know,
And not to
work.
be like a monolith of like Southeast Asia, but like for you specifically, how did you learn about work?
Honestly, it's through my parents. They have that typical immigrant mindset, that typical immigrant story of like coming here, working hard, and building up like their own business, and they will have their kids help work. Of course, that did happen. My parents, or at least my parents, like instilling the values of good work ethic that
Mm-hmm.
if you want something, you got to work for it,
Mm-hmm.
and like no matter where you're at, especially in America, they made that huge distinction that since you're in America, that you kind of have to work hard
Mm-hmm.
if you ever really want to get anything.
Mm-hmm.
That you know we're providing, we're working hard to provide everything you need, so that you can work a little less hard. But
Mm-hmm.
still, if you want something even more, you're gonna have to work hard on your own for your own family,
And
and
then
that
like you have to keep kind
continues
of
on.
building on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
When a lot of people think about these, typical like immigrant stories, they're thinking back from the ones in the 80s that came in, or 70s or 80s when they came in, and that these people were already super educated or had money, and these were always viewed as like you know the ideal like immigrant
Mm-hmm.
or the model minority. That's the model minority. Like they basically just are shown as like these people worked hard, they grew their wealth, they were able to make the American dream. Well, in actuality, like you chose the people you wanted to come into the country, and these were the ones who had the most amount of money or had like a huge amount of education, so they already had a good leg up on the competition. I will say my parents did do a lot for like Bhutanese refugees. They did come around um, in our area, and shout out to my area for being very diverse. It was actually one of the like most diverse places that I can think of growing up. It really gave me a truly different upbringing, and it's given me a lot of different perspectives on my work as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good stuff. So right now we're going to go ahead and take a little break and, yeah, let you know about our sponsors. So here we go. We got the sponsorship music.
This first sponsor for World Refugee Day. Our sponsor likes to give a huge shout out to all refugees recovering and making their lives here in America. Big shout out to Lockheed Martin. If you think refugees, think Lockheed Martin.
We'd also like to shout out we'd also like to thank our sponsor, Nestle. Nestle, because water is not a human right.
All right.
Yeah, we can keep doing more of these.
I'm trying to think of what else.
Off the top of your head, like who are other sponsors? Yeah, dude, I love. What's your favorite product? What's your favorite product that Lockheed Martin makes?
Honestly, it's gotta be the F-52 like unmanned drone.
Oh my god, dude! Yeah, that thing is awesome.
If you are a dictatorial government that needs dissenters like suppressed, contact Lockheed Martin.
Oh yeah. If you want to keep us employed forever, we recommend that you go to lockheedmartin.com/southernfried. Type in and yeah, go to the website, buy whatever you want. That should get you about a 20% discount on stock. All views expressed in this podcast are our own.
We do not represent any organization, company, or individual political organization.
Dude, this like Lockheed Martin like put a bunch of stuff on the new Top Gun movie. That's so funny.
Honestly, if you want to talk about big sponsorship, that's like big sponsorship right there.
Oh yeah, dude! I can't believe they sponsored us. Anyway,
I mean,
okay, so let's get back to the show. For me, I want to talk about how I learned about work.
All right.
So like, and again, I don't know if this is specifically like a North Carolina, or it's not inherent to North Carolina. It's not inherent to Louisiana, but for me, like, both my parents worked like all the time. So my mom has a job. She's a lawyer. She still works. She loves it. And my father has a job. And so they would go to work like 10 hours a day and just leave me and my siblings just at home while we were at school. So it became for me, it became very clear that there's work is just a thing that is done. It's just it's kind of like an innings eater for time, you know?
Yeah.
So that's how I started discovering work, and then I went to college, and when I was off college, I was working, and I worked through all of my college just because I had nothing else. I felt like I genuinely had nothing else to do. The money was nice, but for me, I worked because I
gotta fill in your time somehow.
Yeah, I gotta fill time. I gotta do something. I can't not do anything. You know, I was getting so goddamn bored all the time.
And I think that's how work has been instilled for a lot of people, and I think it's also very across generations too. You kind of get in that habit, and honestly, that's how I feel too. Even on my days off, it's nice having a day off, but if I have more than that, an extended period off, I'm just I can't do this. There's only a certain amount of Netflix I can watch before I'm just I watched it all, even this.
Yeah, but that's kind of that's what cultural conditioning will do to you, you know? If your whole life you're told you have to you're working, and when you stop work you have nothing else to do. And for these people, they had a different life. They were doing something different, and now they're being told to do what we've been doing our whole lives. And so for people like us, it's so easy for us to just scream dude, just get a job, go to work, do the things we're telling you to do because we're right. And it's just for them, they didn't grow up like that, you know?
Yeah, and it's just the thing is, we also had to explain that to them and it sounds terrible, but we also had to let them know you kind of have to do this too. There's no other way around it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we basically, in that effort of conditioning people who are not conditioned, essentially we were conditioned at birth.
No, I wouldn't say we're at birth.
Not at birth, well, but we are basically enshrined in this country, especially when we get into school. We kind of
And like I said earlier, it's about kind of the like work being America's like religion.
Yeah.
So like,
Especially growing up, like you see it on movies and TVs, that like
Mhm.
people work, like that. Like there was no aspect of name like one of your favorite like main characters.
Mhm.
They worked. They had a job of
Exactly.
some sort.
Yeah, like you have like a
Like even Superman had a job.
yeah. Superman was like a Superman worked at the paper. Like
Okay, side note on this, like, how in the hell does glasses and swooping your hair change your identity? This man literally is a supposed to be like a weak-ended journalist. Like that man has pecs and broad
Mhm.
shoulders. Like, how is he supposed to be like a meek, like journalist from like Nebraska? Wow,
there
that was
is
just a
that
side
like,
note.
but we're kind of like in a way we're kind of like converting like to get back on top. We're kind of converting these people to our like American religion.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's like you have to do this like weird evangelical stuff, and then you kind of get to this point like I'm sure a lot of people get with their own religion where you kind of like to question it. Like I've definitely gotten places where I'm like, what the fuck am I working? Like why am I doing this?
Honestly, and it does come back to like where like we've come to the point where we're just like eat the rich. So like I feel like that's when we started questioning because we have like worked like we've seen our parents work their whole lives,
Mm-hmm.
and for some people like they've seen their parents work their whole lives and still not able to like stop working. You know, before the American dream was like you're able to work for your whole life and then save up for retirement.
Mm-hmm.
That was the American dream.
And then you retire, yeah.
And then you spend your golden years doing nothing. Honestly, I still find that just kind of hard to believe, especially like in a religious aspect, because it's just like you're telling me I had to spend the prime of my life essentially slaving away
Mm-hmm.
just so I can live the closer end to my life with zero responsibilities. That does not sound right.
No, yeah, like, it's ridiculous.
And I think that's where we're kind of like questioning it too. We're wasting the prime of our lives.
I wouldn't say we're wasting the
Not
prime of
wasting
our
it.
lives.
Like especially what we do, I feel like we're kind of like really enhancing what we're doing.
Oh yeah, no, I
Like,
really yeah.
But I feel like for everyone else who has no other choice position, work that shitty job at like McDonald's or
Oh yeah, don't knock that work. Like
exactly service
it's
work is important. Like I've been in the service industry for years before coming down to this field, and I always believe that it's the best industry to get into when like especially when you if it's your first job. Like
oh my god, I am a firm believer that like how, like in Europe and like South Korea they have like the civil service like
Yeah.
or mandatory like conscription like everyone in this country like that should be part of mandatory conscription is you have to work in the service industry.
yeah, you have to work with your fellow like Americans, serving your fellow Americans, and you understand like fellow Americans suck. Like some of them
Yeah.
are absolute godsends, others are just hell spawn
Mm-hmm.
that the devil doesn't even want. It really teaches you how to deal with people and how to not lose your own cool.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think going back to what we were talking about, like how our like I want to like genuinely ask this question, like, and I do think I know I have my own answer, but like I do think our job is good. It does more. It's a net positive in the end of the
Yes.
day, because like again, we're not like our job isn't giving rides to old ladies for free. Like our job is like or it's not planting flowers at cemeteries. Our job is like there you can make an argument that like there are aspects of it which are sort of problematic. Like kind of where you kind of have to coerce people maybe into doing something they might not want to do.
Yeah, and not like basically kind of force them to work something they don't want to do, but it's honestly just like letting them know like we have no other options.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know you don't like it, but like honestly, because there's a lot of jobs that we all had to do that we didn't really want to do,
Mm-hmm.
but because of circumstance, we had no other choice. And that's kind of like that's what I'm trying to say about the realities of America is that like what you think is gonna happen, in a sense, like the American like entitlement
Mm-hmm.
aspect is not the actual reality. You don't have that luxury. In America, they make that super hard. Especially like my previous work in North Carolina as a resettlement agent in a resettlement agency. Now, up here, the standard of the minimum wage is higher. The standard of living is higher, but like they're at least trying to keep up with the minimum wage. North Carolina doesn't has not increased their minimum wage. It's still the federal 7.25. Now, where we were at, of course, there were places that would pay you more than the minimum wage because it was like a very, metropolitan city area. So they do have jobs where like you can get paid more, but there's still other jobs where like they only pay 7.25. They don't give you.
Yeah, and that's why like, and again, I don't want to come down. I don't want to feel like I'm coming down on our job and being like, oh, it's we know our job is like kind of like ethically like muddled. It's really not. This is like these are just like thoughts that I have, and I kind of want to do my like, I guess, ethical due diligence with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. So,
It's just like concerns that we've seen before and that we feel like it's an issue that we had to address, but it's also just something we have to like talk about because these things do happen and tend to happen, and just a reality. But I do feel like our job does have its like moments where you have those moments where like all of it becomes like worth it. Those little moments of like you've actually helped this family out, get their life back on track, and those little moments where like you succeed in actually helping overcome a barrier that like they've always wanted to overcome, like getting someone who've always wanted to finish getting their education. you know those little moments where like you would take those things for granted because we've gotten them. Other people who have never had the chance to complete it or get it, being able to get that themselves and be able to be fully free to be able to get that is actually truly amazing. And I feel like that's the important part of our work is just we're letting these people have their lives back, their humanity back. And that's why I think like this is great to have World Refugee Day, just to show that like these people who have lost their humanity are now finding it back.
exactly, and we're helping people like participate in life in the United States, and that's honestly like a really beautiful thing that they get to do. That's not something that, and unfortunately, that's not something everyone gets. So, yeah, that's why this work is important because it's stuff that we do.
Yeah.
And we like it is cool like to see like how you affect change because we were talking about this a little bit. Well, like we do kind of affect like we are like out here like actually affecting like progressive change in society.
Yeah.
But like by empowering people. Now it's very little. Like it is a drop in a very large bucket, but like we're still dripping.
Yeah. It's kind of more like you're seeing the direct impacts of actual implementation of policies that are supposed to do good. So like the Russian nesting doll, it goes from that big to the small to the small to the small, and like we're at the bottom towards where we see like what the big overall like policies has enacted trying to help these people, by giving funding, and then we're right there knowing what the funding should be going to, like what areas we should focusing on and like what areas we should like be helping on. So we're able to see the change more directly. Like I said, that's what makes this job so great. It's just like we get to see that, we get to like that becomes our little moments where like we know that we did a good job, that what we're doing matters.
And again, like it matters to another person. Like someone someone has is having a better life as a direct result of something I've done, and that makes me really happy. Like I can.
Like we help this person like get their lives back on track.
Yeah, but again, let's. There are also so many cool things I love about like working where we work.
The diversity of who we work with, because when you're working with resettlement, you have a lot of diversity. Because a lot of people are people who have like worked in resettlement or who have gone through the resettlement process themselves, and you have a lot of different perspectives, not only from people from different regions. I mean, especially in the area that we're in, like we have people from all over the country, and not only that, all over the world. People who have gone through it, people who have not, and so everyone brings a unique perspective, and then we're all dealing with the same clientele essentially. But with that, we all basically have a way just to communicate with each other of shared experiences, and that's another thing about like the communities I work with is that a lot of them the sense of community is strong.
It is. And I think that when you have, like, as humanitarian workers, we kind of have, like, that weird, like, we're kind of, like, all bound together by this, like, by the sense that, like, we all kind of care.
Yeah.
But we all, like, again, we're at this spot where we're, like, I don't know about you, but, like, for me, when it's time to work, it's time to work.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm gonna work my proverbial ass off for these clients, and I'm so happy I get to do that.
Yeah. Like, I put my full effort into helping out every single one of my clients, and it's making sure that I do my best to get where I need them to be at.
Mm-hmm. And it's pretty cool, like, because we pull from all over the United States, but I feel like the South is kind of, like, underrepresented.
The crazy thing is the amount of refugees that get resettled in the South.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah, like, a lot of, like, again, like, immigrants come to this country, they come everywhere, like, just this, like, to wrap up, like, I remember I played basketball growing up, as you know, and I remember we had this, like, every once we were playing against this team who had this, like, this Sudanese dude, and he was just, and they were like, were you like like that? I didn't realize it till later. It was like, oh, that guy was a refugee, like, out here playing basketball. And, it's pretty cool, like, how, you don't even really know that they're with you. But, again, like, I feel like in the South, the workers, I feel like, because, like, again, we've talked about this before, but, like, there is still, like, de facto segregation in the South. But I think, I would say, in these days, like, it's becoming more and more of a money thing than a racial thing. Now, the racial thing, the history, still very much ingrained in how people talk, think, and act.
Exactly.
But I think that the stratification we're seeing now is being reified by financial things, which again, like, there is, like, racism embedded in those institutions, but basically, I heard a sociology professor say this one time, it's like, the color of the 21st century isn't black or white, it's green. So I think as you keep seeing the economic disparity between people in the South in terms of segregation, you're going to see it more with, like, refugee populations kind of falling into those, like, unfortunately have-nots. And I think that, as people who've like come up from the South and seen how these things have kind of, transpired. Not to say it's, like, horrible, because, like, there are, like, they're like very well, like, racially integrated communities in the South, like yours, for example.
Yeah. Well, again, it doesn't really disqualify the racism there.
Oh, no, I didn't mean, like, to, like, at all.
But no, like, because my prep school was also, like, across the street from it was a house, and always flown a huge Confederate flag, 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
So, going to school every single day, you see that flag, you're kind of reminded of it, and that also it also brings up, like, we've also learned in back then, like, the reason why our schools existed was because of segregation and all that. But aside from that, I feel like, it really is kind of coming down through class struggles, because I've seen, black and white people both, we're both getting screwed over here.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've also seen the flip.
Let's move on to burnt ends.
Let's go for burnt ends.
Burnt ends, man. This is a good first episode. I feel like we kind of got a lot out of each other. Like, we had a nice talk, but also, like, I felt like I was talking too much, or I was, like, using too many filler words when I was talking.
I felt like I was also talking too much. I feel like we did not crack enough jokes. But again, it's all about, like,
I mean, we're not advertising this as, like, a comedy podcast. We don't need people to be. We don't need to be like we're not like. We don't need to be funny for the show to do well.
Yeah, but I feel like we were just going on way too serious of a conversation, not talking about, like, more of deeper societal issues.
Oh no, and I think we can, but I think we can get to that, like, lighthearted thing. Like, again, there are clients we have, who we could tell humorous anecdotes about, like Mr. X, who and you already know exactly
Yeah.
who I'm talking about.
Like we all know what we're talking about. But
dude's got
and like
he's got 8 shoulders.
yeah. And that's just another thing that I think is like another cultural difference. It's just the amount, like birth control.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is also crazy too because this used to be an American like thing too. Like you would have a shit ton of kids.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the whole process that like you're hoping that at least a couple of them will make it to adulthood.
Well, like that's like why people like had so many kids in the beginning because like it was just agriculture. It's like more farm hands.
Not only that, it's also just like more babies means at least more chances of one of them growing up.
And one of them growing up too.
Actually make it to adulthood
And
and
work
have their
on the farm.
not only work on the farm but have their own family and have those kids work on the farm.
There it is. Yeah, dude.
But like yeah, so they completely like and Jock here just completely.
Oh my god, that's another episode,
So,
dude. So.
But yeah, this has been a great episode. I feel like we have a lot of things we can talk about.
This is a good starting point for the show.
Yeah, and then I feel like we have a good starting point where we can just kind of tweak what we have here so far, and just add in and take out what we see.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, subscribe to our show on Spotify
And Apple Podcasts.
Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Like to thank our sponsors Nestle and Lockheed Martin for sponsoring World Refugee Day. And yeah, guys, just check them out. Promo code was Southern Pride.
And disclaimer: Lockheed Martin and Nestle are not actual official sponsors.
Yeah, just to make that very clear.
We do not want to get sued.
No, this is parody. This is a joke. Like it's a valid criticism of those companies in form of parody.
Exactly.
But yeah, y'all come back now. You hear?